One of the reasons why Todd Monken was hired by Kirby Smart to take over the offensive coordinator position in 2020 was, as Todd has talked about a lot, and I think this is really one of the most important points of Kirby Smart's, time at Georgia. He has recognized failures or deficiencies, and he has addressed them. I can't tell you a time where Georgia's defense has been deficient. Like for a season, it's not been good. We've seen games 2016 against Ole Miss, 2022 against Ohio State, to some degree against LSU, 2020 against Alabama and Florida. But for the most part, Georgia's defense has been, exceptional to beyond exceptional. One of the things that Todd and Kirby talked about when they came together was about making Georgia more explosive, making Georgia better, etc. That was something that I think that really was a problem in 2019. And when you look at the trajectory of the Dawgs from that point forward, Georgia's gotten noticeably better on offense. Well, why is that? Is it they have better players? Is it that they have better play callers? They've had both. I mean, frankly, JT Daniels and Stetson Bennett were better quarterbacks than Jake Fromm. I don't think there's any debate about Todd Monken being a better coordinator than Jim Chaney and James Coley. But I would say, Georgia had a receivers problem. They went out and tried to address that with George Pickens, and on from there. But this is really the most noticeable thing from Kirby in step one, which was the beginning of his program, to now, which is really the full maturation of it, is he understood he had a relative weakness in offense, and he changed there. And so now you see Todd Monken gone. Does that mean that Georgia's offense is no longer going to be explosive? I'm not so sure that they're just going to fall off a cliff. This is an offense that still has really the biggest thing is a very good offensive line. I mean, that's the thing that jumps out to me more than anything is the offensive line at Georgia has been developed. Obviously, unfortunate, tragic loss of Devin Willock coming into the 23 season, and that hurts Georgia on more than, obviously the death of a student athlete or a student is tragic. We just don't see that. But in cold-blooded terms, it hurts the Dawgs in 23. But no, they have addressed offensive line in a way that these guys are good. And 4 of the 5 guys who started in the national championship game as well as the Ohio State game are back. So you lose Warren McClendon and Broderick Jones, but Warren didn't start in either of those games. And Georgia, they scored 42-plus points in both those games. So I think that is the first strength of Georgia right now is that they have in place what you want, which are the big guys. Defensively, they're going to have that too, but it's the big guys. Make sure you are signing up for our newsletter that is down below. You're going to get all the information that you need from us. We cannot do it on videos all the time. Sometimes there's just too much going on. Make sure that you're doing that. You'll see unique offers from Red Zone. You'll hear about when stuff like Double Dawgs is getting out the door. That will be soon. We've got confetti still if you're interested in buying Double Dawgs today. But the number one way to do that is by getting on the newsletter. That link is down below. We get fascinated with skill positions. We get fascinated with who the next quarterback is going to be. And, is Zamir White as good as Dean saw him in high school? He didn't have to be. Zamir didn't have to be because there were so many moving parts to Georgia's offense that they just, that's the thing that Kirby has really addressed in a major way. If he's not always been a great head coach. He's not. I don't really know how you could make the argument that he has always been a great head coach. He's been a very good head coach, but he's not been great. Now, however, he has gotten to the point where I think you have to call him a great head coach, not just because of these past 2 seasons, but I think the turning point for him was somewhere during the 19 season. Had Justin Fields been in this offense, Georgia would have been frightening to deal with, because they had something like that in Stetson Bennett, just not as dynamic a player. And Stetson Bennett's pretty dynamic. So I think that he understood, hey, we've got to get better at these things, and they went out and did it. And with the exception of Carson Beck, who will probably start in 2023, the quarterbacks they've recruited and used ever since have been dual threat guys. Stetson, Brock Vandegrift, Gunnar Stockton. These are all guys that Georgia really needed to. They needed to change their offense, and with those guys, they did. And when you change the offense because of the quarterback or the style that you use, that makes a big difference. And for Georgia, moving towards a dual threat guy means the defense has to account for that person. And how many times were defenses unable to account for Stetson Bennett? I mean, it was a consistent problem. I mean, I can think of games all the time. I mean, the Arkansas game in 20, the Arkansas game in 21, the Auburn game in 21 and 22, TCU, he had a huge long run, the Tennessee game in 21, the Tennessee game in 22, this very particular play. I mean, on this play, he is rolling out to he is getting pressured. And basically what's happening on this play is that he is an unmarked defender, an unaccounted for defender comes through, and Stetson makes him pay. So it really was about changing the style in which Georgia plays and being more explosive, less plotting. Jake Fromm was a really good quarterback at Georgia. He would not be the right fit for this particular offense, I don't think, because he wasn't explosive necessarily. He was a, sort of a commander. That was really what he was. And he was dangerous enough with his feet at times, but it wasn't something people really worried about. You had to worry about Bennett. You had to worry about Dwan Mathis with his feet. I mean, you wonder why they went with Mathis at the start. That's why I think Monk and Lamar Jackson would be a heck of a combination. And we'll just see how that goes over time. But for Georgia, I think that the smartest decision that Kirby made was adjusting the way in which he ran offenses. And you're seeing the result of that change and development as a coach.